Good afternoon, everyone. Today, with the team of bankers, which is comprised of Mahmoud Aliyar and Ikram Aziza, which are students of the Tashkent State University of Economics, will present you the presentation which was prepared based on the research paper on the topic of responsibilities in sustainability and how Uzbek banks can be responsible. In the example of Deutsche Bank, which was used in order to compare the European bank as with the Bank of Uzbekistan. The plan of our work is to show you the experience of the European Union in relation to the promotion of the responsibilities of banks for sustainability, and also the experience of Uzbekistan, so we can conduct the comparative analysis in the end, and also show you the methods which can be adapted in Uzbekistan and taken from the European Union policies in order to improve the conditions of sustainable banking in Uzbekistan, which would improve the environmental and social conditions in our country. And also we will show you the conclusion of our research paper. And now we will cover the aims and objectives of our paper, and the objective of our study was to examine the nature and scope of sustainability in the banking industry in the European Union and Uzbekistan. The aim of the research is to compare the European Union policies towards higher incentives for banks to implement sustainability strategies while making decisions about which financial products to offer to their clients, and also to promote investments which would result in better environmental conditions and also quality of lives of all the people around the world with those of the Uzbekistan's policies. And also during the process of analyzing the strategies of the European Union, we try to understand how banks can adapt European policies and to improve the Uzbekistan's bank strategies towards improvements in sustainability. And we will also try to find new solutions for this. And in the scientific notes, it showed that in order to increase the responsibility for sustainable banking, to stimulate long-term sustainable investments while taking the materialization of the goal into account, incentives should be properly constructed, related to risks and how they affect the financial system in the European Union. And moreover, this evaluation must take into account the multiplicative impacts of incentives at the levels of the product issuer, investor, and investee. And moreover, they have to be examined in the context of global efforts and in line with the objectives of the European Union Action Plan on Financing Sustainable Growth. And throughout the approval and monitoring phase, specific requirements and accurate information should be set in order to access and take use of such incentives. And also it would be useful to trace all the massive individual transactions in order to make sustainable finance possible through products like green bonds, green loans, or positive impact loans. As a result, these instruments may need a large portion of smaller investments that are necessary collectively to achieve global sustainability objectives. And also green bonds, green loans, or green securitization should be listed under the eligible assets as suitable collateral provided specific conditions are met, such as the eligibility requirement. And here we have experience of European Union, and we will try to cover all the important aspects from our paper in order to make it clear which policies are implemented in the European Union countries in order to promote sustainable banking. And now we will start. Due to deteriorating conditions of European countries' environment and catastrophic climate changes, European Union decided that it is necessary to bring the sustainability in relation to the economy to the main topic of everyone's considerations. As we found in the document which was provided in the official website of the European Union, the contributions aimed at the improvement of the climate, which is green financing, as well as the mitigation and management of the financial risks related to the environmental issues, which is green finance, require huge investments which couldn't be provided with the only help of the government, and hence the help of the private sector should be incentivized. And also, in order to unify environmental, social, and governance with financial services, sustainable finance was created, which also has a goal to promote sustainable economic growth. All the financial sector has to be aware of all the risks associated with the catastrophic climate changes, and also which can result from inappropriate management and other financial decisions. Hence, the higher transparency is required from the European banks. And the European Banking Authority plays a significant part in assisting the European banking industry in achieving the goals of shifting to a more sustainable economy and reducing risks associated with ESG. And the EBA was established on the 1st January in 2011 as part of the European system of financial supervision. As it is a special agency, it operates as one of the most important European organizations. And through issuing legally enforceable regulatory and implementing technical standards and guidelines, the EBA's main duty is to support the creation of the European Single Rule Book in banking. The Single Rule Book aims to create a single set of prudential requirements for financial institutions across the European Union in order to level the playing field and guarantee depositors, investors, and consumers a high degree of protection. And to ensure appropriate implementation of prudential rules, the European Authority is essential in promoting the uniformity of supervisory practices. Finally, in order to identify the risks and vulnerabilities in the European banking system, the EBA is obligated to carry out routine risk assessment studies and pan-European stress tests. Additional duties detailed in the EBA's mission statement include looking into allegations of erroneous or inadequate application of European Union legislation by national authorities, and also making judgments in a crisis scenario, and also resolving disputes between the relevant authorities in cross-border circumstances. And to carry out these duties, the EBA develops both regulatory and non-regulatory documents such as legally enforceable technical standards, guidelines, recommendations, views, and ad hoc, which is in other words as needed reports or quarterly reports. The European voluntary system created for organizations desiring to analyze and monitor and improve their environmental performance is the Eco Management and Audit Scheme, which abbreviation is EMAS, which has been authorized by the European Parliament and Council. And the EMAS provides a formal framework for incorporating environmental considerations into the management and daily operations of any organization, which is important because sustainability is a rising priority for European residents and enterprises. And in 2019, it became clear that the EBA should evaluate its obligations and make sure its own environmental implications were handled while the Commission developed its Green Deal and pursued its Sustainable Finance Action Plan. And here we will also describe the environmental policy at the EBA. And the European Banking Authority acknowledges that it has a long-term obligation to contribute favorably to sustainable development. And thus we have chosen, in accordance with the report, they have chosen their strategy around the environment and adopt the Eco Management and Audit Plan, which is the European standard for environmental management. And the EBA's actions and products are all subject to this environmental policy. The purpose of EMAS is to protect the integrity, effectiveness, and smooth operation of the European banking industry. And its scope includes operational activities carried out in Paris, as well as fundamental business activities and products. The policy is meant to provide as a roadmap for establishing yearly or multi-annual goals in this area. And also the European Commission will look at the viability of including climate-related and other environmental-related dangers in institutional risk management practices and the estimation of future capital requirements. And the EBA is tasked with determining whether dedicated prudential treatment of exposures connected to assets or activities that are strongly linked to the environmental or social objectives would be justified under the Capital Requirement Regulation. And this evaluation also examines the approaches used to determine how risky particular exposures actually are in relation to other exposures. And the primary goal of some of the programs, such as loan guarantee programs, to support European small medium entities. There are many guarantee programs in operation, including the Employment and Social Innovation Program, the Cultural and Creative Sectors Guarantee Facility, and the INNOV-FIN SME Guarantee Facility Program, which targets innovative small and medium-sized entities and small to mid-cap companies. And one of the three pillars of the investment plan for Europe and one of the guarantee instruments for European Fund for Strategic Investment managed by the European Investment Bank plays a significant role in risk financing for small and medium-sized entities, as well as financing strategic investments in important fields like infrastructure, research and innovation, education and renewable energy, and also energy efficiency. And the sustainable infrastructure policy window is the main one among the four policy windows that make up the budget guarantee. Sustainable investments in the areas of transport, energy, digital connectivity, supply and processing of raw materials, space, oceans and water, waste, nature and other environmental infrastructure, equipment, mobile assets and deployment of innovative technologies that contribute to the environment or social responsibility for sustainability objectives are included in its purview. And the part related to the European Union experience itself was over, and also we have the experience of the Deutsche Bank, but this will be continued and covered by the other team member, Mahmoud Avenir.
The experience of the Deutsche Bank. After covering all the policies in relation to sustainability found by us, let's look at the Deutsche Bank's Sustainable Finance Framework to see how all the strategies and policies undertaken by European Union government and also bank stakeholders might have influenced the decisions made by banks towards solving some of the environmental issues. So, based on the bank's framework, we will analyze its practices towards the increase in the responsibility for sustainability. As was provided in the framework, sustainability principles enhance the bank's obligations toward ESG. Some of the principles based on which the bank conducts its business are: the first is the commitment of balancing economic success with environmental and social responsibility. The next, identification of the environmental and social impact of our business activities. And the next is promotion of business that enables sustainable growth. Additionally, by establishing an ambitious goal of facilitating €200 billion in ESG finance, in addition to its portfolio of sustainable assets by 2025, Deutsche Bank has shown its willingness towards contributions to sustainability. The UN Global Compact, the UN Guidelines for Responsible Investing, and the UN Guiding Principles of Business and Human Rights are only a few examples of globally recognized standards that the bank adheres to. The Deutsche Bank decides whether it will finance some project based on the following conditions. The environmental and social factors will be used to assess if the underlying economic activities are judged sustainable when dedicated uses of earnings can be identified. There are two essential factors to think about. First, initiatives that support, enhance, and safeguard the environment. Second, initiatives that foster social development, particularly among underprivileged target populations. As an example, we will take several sectors in which the company will decide whether to invest in or not in relation to the promotion of the ESG principles. The first is manufacturing. The following criteria should be met in order for the project to become acceptable for the promotion of sustainability. Manufacturing of key components, equipment and machinery for renewable energy technologies. Low carbon transportation eligible under this taxonomy. Energy efficiency of buildings, example, high efficiency lighting. Development and manufacturing of low carbon technologies that substantially reduce GHG emission in other sectors of the economy, include private households. Transition of industrial production of low carbon and high energy efficient production using the European Union taxonomy as a guidance for identification of respective performance thresholds. And recycling and reutilization of material, for example plastics, scrap steel, and so on. The second criteria is water and waste. The following criteria should be met in order for the project to become acceptable for the promotion of sustainability. Front-to-end water collection, treatment, and supply systems with high energy efficiency in terms of water consumption per cubic meter. Activities which substantially reduce energy consumption of a system. Activities which improve water quality and use efficiency. Waste reuse and recycling. Recovery of secondary raw materials. Production of biogas should include controls for methane leakage, for electricity, heat, or biofuel generation. Gas from landfills in closure used for electricity, heat, or biofuel generation. Direct air capture of CO2. The third is transportation and storage. The following criteria should be met in order for the project to become acceptable for the promotion of sustainability. Any zero direct emission vehicles. Other vehicles with direct emissions less than 50 gram CO2 per passenger kilometer until 2025 or meet threshold based on IEA mobility model data. Freight transport is a meets threshold based on IEA mobility model data or follows the respective vehicle-specific thresholds set by the European Union taxonomy. Infrastructure required for zero direct emissions transport and low carbon transport, including, for example, infrastructure for active mobility, for example, cycling. And the fourth principle is information and communications technology, ICT in short words. The following criteria should be met in order for the project to become acceptable for the promotion of sustainability: energy efficient data centers and equipment, data-driven solution enabling GHG emissions reductions. The last principle is agriculture and forestry. The following criteria should be met in order for the project to become acceptable for the promotion of sustainability: measures aimed at improving the sustainability of agricultural processes, example, optimize water consumption, use of fertilizers including organic fertilizers, and so on. Avoidance or significant reduction of GHG emissions. Maintenance or increase of existing carbon stocks. Compliance with sustainable forest management requirements for any afforestation and other focused restoration measures. And despite all the above projects that could be financed by the bank, it also provides organizations with investments in order to expand the access to clean water, clean energy, and types of transportations. And it can also make contributions to the development of new telecommunication networks. The bank also tries to make the access to the health care more affordable, as well as education. And it also wants the housing to become more achievable for people. And now I want to talk about experience of Uzbekistan in the promotion of the responsibilities of banks for sustainability and comparative analysis. In 2021, Uzbekistan for the first time published a report on ESG aspects to measure and assess the country's progress in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. The government of Uzbekistan was the first in the CIS to place government bonds for targeted financing of SDGs, sovereign SDG bonds. The Ministry of Finance is leading the reform of the fiscal system to support the transition to a green economy. Green budgeting methodology, reform of green taxes, and other measures are being developed. Uzbekistan doesn't have legislation or responsible business conduct, but many companies participate in charity and adhere to the principles of corporate social responsibility, either on their own initiative or at the direction of local authorities. There is no carbon exchange in Uzbekistan. Green taxonomy hasn't been developed, but all these issues are discussed at the level of the ministry. Uzbekistan ranks 5th in the world in terms of intensity of greenhouse gas emissions. The country intends to reduce specific emissions per unit of GDP by 35% by 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. By 2030, about 30% of the electricity generated in the country should come from renewable sources. By 2026, Uzbekistan has set a goal to increase the total capacity of solar and wind power plants in the country to 8,000. The electric transport industry in the country is gradually developing. By 2030, it is planned to increase the share of electric vehicles in the total sales at least 15%. There are national manufacturers of electric vehicles in Uzbekistan. The development strategy of Uzbekistan for 2022 to 2026 pays special attention to intensive development of hydrogen energy in the country. government-approved research program for the development of production technology, storage and transportation of hydrogen. A few banks in Uzbekistan are promoting green finance. Despite this, the leader in the list of such banks is SQB Bank, which in terms of policy is very similar to European banks such as Deutsche Bank. In addition, SKB doesn't try to make healthcare education more affordable by providing its clients with more affordable loans. It certainly neglects some if the social aspects of the ESG principles. The goal, according to the green banking policy, which is provided in their official website, is to assist initiatives that are focused on the environment and society. There are a number of green tasks. They are energy efficiency assessment, green technology consulting, funding for green projects, assessment of environmental and social risks, raising research for green projects, working with donors of green projects, recommendations for reducing environmental and social risks, introduction of renewable energy sources. SQB Bank provides mortgages for certain projects in construction and renovations which meet certain environmental standards. It also lends to small and medium business for business projects that meet criteria which characterizes them as being socially and environmentally responsible. They also list which benefits are provided toward the promotion of green financing, acceptable loan conditions, project technical support, green technology selection usage, and energy saving. Which methods of European Union can be adopted in Uzbekistan? Our government should intervene in the sphere of sustainable banking by the creation of the regulatory authority as the European Union did in the example of EBA, which prepares certain recommendations which banks can apply into their practices when making decisions on which projects to choose for financing. In the case of SQB Bank, much was close to the ones of European banks' green financing and green finance decisions, except that it offers lower quantity of financing products aimed at the increase of the improvement of social and environmental conditions. It also focuses on lending to business rather than to borrowers to make healthcare and education services more affordable for people, which could substantially increase social well-being. And as we noticed, there are not such a huge quantity of banks and organizations overall which provide privileges towards green projects. We think that Uzbekistan should incentivize them by supporting financial institutions with kind of subsidies or increasing their reputation in the market by making announcements that the government would stand by them in times of need in case those organizations met certain conditions which would be specified in the official website of the special government agencies. And as was found in the Financial Stability Review in November 2020, part of which was conducted by Marco Belloni, Peter Radulov and others, Euro area banks have expanded their involvement in green finance as green markets have grown. Also, while the median share of green assets is still just slightly above 1% of all bank securities held, Euro area banks have raised the proportion of green bonds in their portfolios. Banks are boosting their own green bond issues as well, often to offer green financing options to businesses that are typically financed through loans. With the strong growth of the green bond market in the second half of the year, new green bond issues accounted for 13% of all Euro area bank bond issues in the third quarter of 2020, up from just 4% in the first. And here you can see a share of green bond holdings in bank securities portfolios. But it is important to mention that also green projects are the focus of green bonds. There is no proof that the bonds really cause issuers to emit less carbon. Also, even though the standardization of verification and reporting of green bonds is now being discussed at the European Commission as part of the European Union Green Bond Standard. Issuers are not responsible for the goals of projects financed by green bonds not being met. But we know that in Uzbekistan, financial markets differ from those in European countries. But in case it develops to a higher level, where funds could be easily raised in times of need by companies with high credit ratings, and in case banks are permitted to hold bonds as a means of increasing liquidity, it would be a great opportunity to promote sustainability through such action. And now let's do some conclusion. The inclusion of environmental concerns has a significant drawbacks in that, despite their potential relevance, many of them do not face high attention, especially in light of other issues and real-world difficulties. If information flows were enhanced, it would be considerably easier for financial firms to take environmental problems into account. In order to analyze and classify financial services and products as sustainable or green, there are presently no global standards or accepted market norms. This could influence how different parties access financial services and financial goods. New rules on environment, social and corporate governance, and sustainable finance also need to be verified, and further draft legislation is now being prepared in these areas. As a result, presently labeled sustainable or green financial services and financial products could not satisfy upcoming regulatory standards for certification as sustainable. While preparing this research, we analyzed using the case of the Deutsche Bank, how strategies of European Union contributed to the promotion of the sustainability in the banking sector, as well as how the Uzbek banks, in the case of SQB or SKB, which is more comfortable for you, implements its green banking policy to make decisions which will lead to borrowers being able to have higher access to funds in order to achieve positive externality from their operating activities on the environmental condition and on society as whole. We also found that despite the lower quantity of banks involved in the process of the implementation of green policies, some of the Uzbekistan banks still make huge contribution towards sustainability. And also we believe that Uzbekistan should establish a special agency like EBA, which will oversee banks' activities and the implications of that activities on the environment. It would require them to increase disclosure of the activities which make positive contributions to environment. Good decision would be to rank banks based on the preparation and implementation of their green policies, and based on that, banks that could receive the help from the government through that regulatory authority in the form of subsidies. In the end, I want to say many thanks to our teacher Ludmila Muradova, who gave us this project work and supported us all this time. Thanks to everyone who watched this video and listened to us. Thank you for your attention. Good luck everyone and take care of yourself.